Let's take a close look at the carriages for the Knitsmart system and also review the Bond carriages and compare and contrast them. This is my first Knitsmart carriage. It sustained some damage, so although we repaired it, I've ordered a second one just in case. And here's the second one. Notice any difference? This one does not have the electronic row counter. More about that row counter later. Except for the row counter, the two carriages are identical. And I have to tell you, I was not aware that the two different styles had been made until I found this one and was glad to find it. Here I am testing whether every part actually interchanges between the two carriages, and indeed it does. I can use the top part with either of the bottom parts and any of the key plates, and everything works just fine. The repair we made does work, is still working, and is covered in another video in case you have such a need. Now let's compare that with my old extended Bond. I think I started out with an incredible sweater machine, though I cannot quite remember. The bed was greatly extended with parts from two different additional machines. And here's my original carriage. It has the wire guide. Later, the company simplified the design, and I did have a carriage like this as well. In some instances, those guides gave people a little bit of trouble, though they didn't really bother me. The later carriage is lighter. I found that because of that, I needed to exert a little downward pressure while knitting to keep them performing well. Both of the Knitsmart carriages are heavier than either of the Bond carriages, and I think that feature is helpful to me. It feels as though the carriage is more firmly hugging the bed. The key plates fit in pretty much the same manner, although in this case, you lift the top piece off. In the Bond, you flip the lid of the machine open. The lid of the carriage, I should say. I've been told that some key plates from the Bond will actually work on the Knitsmart, but that is not something that I have been able to confirm with my own experiments. Most Knitsmarts came with 4 key plates, and each of them is two-sided. The number that you are looking at is the size that is knitting, and they fit under those little grooves in the back. So you must angle the key plate slightly to get it into position. 4 double-sided plates gives the Knitsmart 8 potential stitch sizes. Most Bonds came with fewer plates. My first did have 4, but they were single-sided. The numbering is different, but the translation is pretty straightforward. I would say 10, 20, 30, and 40 are roughly equal to 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the Bond key plate sizes. For a period of time, Bond also made 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 4 dot, which are half sizes. So if you can get a set of standard ones and dotted ones, you'd have a similar array of sizes to what you get with the Knitsmart key plates. The action part of these key plates is pretty much exactly alike. However, the parts that aren't involved in stitch formation are varied. Here's the Knitsmart with its cover off, and that front area is rectangular. The same area on the Bond is almost triangular. So it's easy to see that if the fit was solid enough, the Bond key plates might fit easily into the Knitsmart. As I said, I haven't checked. But Knitsmart to Bond might take some modifications. If you know my work from other machine knitting videos, you may wonder why on earth I would want a Bond or a Knitsmart, because I have other machines that have many more bells and whistles. The answer is I still have considerable affection for these simple little plastic machines. They're inexpensive, they're very, very portable because they weigh nearly nothing. They dismantle so that you can fit them into a suitcase or even a backpack. And there is no better way to learn the nuts and bolts of how a stitch is really formed than using a machine where you have to be intimately involved in the working stitches. Do remember they are plastic, and now many of them are vintage, so they are fragile. If you are traveling with them or packing them to send somewhere, do so with great care. Now let's have a look at the electronic row counter on some versions of this machine. There's a spot for a AA battery beneath the carriage, and it will only go in one way. Press the on button and you will see something come up in the window, but it may not be exactly what you want just yet. Press all 5 buttons at the same time, which clears whatever was in the memory. Pressing the up arrow key adds rows, and it begins with 50. If that's too many, press the down arrow key until you get to the total number of rows you want to knit for the next section. You can also tap the up arrow key and add 1 row at a time, and adjust to the total number of rows that is the right number for your next piece of work. The counter is designed to count down to 0 and then beep to notify you. There is supposed to be a row counter activator inserted at the back of the machine. Without that, the counting down won't occur, and I don't have mine at present. But the row counter can still be useful because you can knit across, then tap the down button once, knit across again, tap again, and it's still far more efficient than any external counter would be. If I'm able to find or make an activator, we will see a video on that shortly. Remember to turn off the counter when done to save the battery. Bond machines use a different kind of row counter, a mechanical row counter. Every time the carriage passes this part, it swings to the side. That causes the numbers shown here to advance. This counts from 0 upwards rather than from your destination number downwards. This kind of row counter is typical of a mechanical machine.